So Annapurna has decided that it was in their best interest to post this, right? Which, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw that Xbox was running, like the official Xbox account was running damage control for Mixtape. Did you guys see that? That's how you know this shit is serious for them. That's how you know you got the official Xbox account. I don't know if I have the tweet. If I do, I'll pull it up. You got the official Xbox account running damage control, and they're like, yeah, not every video game has to be for you. Just because it's not for you doesn't mean it's not a good game. That's like, why is the Xbox account saying that? What the fuck? Anyway, so guys, Annapurna Interactive posted this. The scores are in. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they paid the graphic designer good money to make this, considering they paid good money to get all these reviews. But in any case, you got 10 out of 10 IGN, 10 out of 10 Dual Shockers, 10 out of 10 The Indie Informer, 10 out of 10 CG Magazine, 10 out of 10 Gaming Trend, 10 out of 10 Gaming.net, 10 out of 10 Insider Gaming, 10 out of 10 Screen Hub, 10 out of 10 what the fuck is a Stevivore? 10 out of 10 The Sixth Axis, 10 out of 10 Use a Potion, 10 out of 10 Video Game Chronicles, 10 out of 10 Voxel, 10 out of 10 Well Played, 10 out of 10 Xbox Tavern, 10 out of 10 Hobby Consolas, 9.6 out of 10 Playfront, 9.5 out of 10 Gaming Cypher, and 9 out of 10 for GameSpot. Wow, interesting. So this video game got 10 out of 10s damn near pretty much across the board, which I find to be pretty hilarious. We've all pretty much talked about this already. Now, the responses are exactly what you would expect. There are people that are roasting it and calling it out for exactly what it is, right? Which is basically a fucking industry plant. Yeah, I'm sick. It must have been a very big surprise. Cough. I mean, I've been sick these past few days. Give me money, right? Scores that are bought and paid for. There's nothing money can't buy. Smells like bullshit. Nope. Industry plant. So listen, guys, what the hell? It is. It is. It really is. It really is. I agree. They probably sang that song. They probably sang that song at their studios when they were sending out the checks. You know, they probably, to be honest with you, they probably had, you know, like I would say 1,000 to maybe, depending on the size of the creator, $1,000 to $5,000 checks attached to every single like creator box that they sent out to people for them to open and stuff. They were like, hey, your check's inside. You know, anyway, at the end of the day, people have said their piece about Mixtape, and actually people are bringing up a really good point about this game, is that the industry tried to go after Expedition 33 a couple of months ago because, well, a few months ago, because of essentially the fact that they don't view that game to be an indie game. They say that essentially the game is too good for it to be an indie game, that it has somebody who's in charge of the studio that is a wealthy person. Now, the funny thing is, the person who is in charge of Annapurna is one of the wealthiest people on the fucking planet, or at least the daughter of one of the wealthiest people on the planet. But they're all turning their fucking backs to that. Like, they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to even mention it. But they were quick to mention the fact that the guy who is in charge of the Expedition 33 studio is fairly wealthy, but not exactly like billionaire status. I don't even think he's millionaire status, but, you know, he's fairly wealthy. But again, it's all about, it's okay when they do it, right? Because it's about pushing their games. But then they get mad at you when you want to push games that you are advocating for and that you're enjoying and that you want to see more of. So it's one of these, you know, hypocritical things. But anyway, so, and again, whether people buy it or whether people do it on Game Pass or whatever, at the end of the day, your chair, sir, that's funny. At the end of the day, this shit, I'm not showing the frog. Nope. It was a cartoon, YouTube. It was a cartoon. At the end of the day, it just proves that this is all literally just one massive AstroTurf video game. And here's where it gets even better. So let me show you guys the Xbox post. So Xbox ended up making a post where they essentially, it's one of those, like, we're not going to mention the game, right? Like, they're going to pretend like it's just a vague comment, but we all know who exactly they're talking about. So let me go over it really quick. Let me bring it up on screen. I know I have it saved somewhere here. Hold on. Xbox. Let's see what they said. Fuck. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So Xbox right here, the official statement. As you can see, it says, reminder, just because you're not personally into a game doesn't mean it's a bad game. Now, here's the thing. I don't disagree with this statement, okay? I don't, because a lot of the time on the internet, you're going to have people that are going to be like, this game is fucking trash, and ultimately it's a game that's really just not meant for that kind of player. But this is misrepresenting the conversation that's happening around this game, and this is misrepresenting people's anger towards what this game is representing right now in the overall gaming space. It's not about the fact that the game is not for them. People don't fucking care about this game in that manner. People aren't mad about this game in the sense that, oh man, it's a game that's not for me, I'm pissed. People are mad because you guys are astroturfing this game to the moon. You guys are trying to convince the world, not just people in your little circle. I can understand if you want to, like, talk to your friends over at your job, you want to be like, hey man, I played Mixtape. This game's a fucking 10 out of 10. This is a generational video game. And you want to convince your friend to waste money on this game, then by all means, it's perfectly fine, right? That's okay. You're allowed to do that, right? But at the end of the day, you guys look at this and you're calling it a 10 out of 10 for everybody. Reminder, just because you're not personally into a game doesn't mean it's a bad game. Again, guys, I agree with this statement. However, for me, it's not about the game, okay? This game is being utilized by the industry to push nonsense out there and to try to convince everybody that this game is better than any game that's come on the last 10 years, right? We're not talking about a video game where they're like, hey, you know, this game is pretty good for just a one-off or whatever. No, they're calling it a generational video game, right? They're calling it a game that literally changes lives, all right? So when you see this nonsense and you see this being pushed, you're naturally going to get a reaction. Now, I think it's pretty insane for the official Xbox account to be making this post when we all know what game they're talking about. Everybody in the comments can clearly see what game they're talking about. We all know what game they're talking about. And not only that, the other problem with this game is that they're trying to pass it off as an indie game, right? They're trying to pass it off as essentially a video game that could stand with, like, you know, your typical other indie games, your fucking your Schedule 1, right? Like, this is the example. I feel like this is the example of somebody looking at indie games and they want to be part of the crowd, so they're astroturfing and faking their way into it and trying to pretend like, you know, hello, fellow kids, kind of a situation, but with indie games. They're trying to pass it off as that. This is not an indie game, okay? This thing, not only do they have a massive publisher like Annapurna Interactive, but they have so much there is no way that this indie game is able to send out all these care packages, is able to spend all this money on licensed music. There is no fucking way. Like, these people, I'm telling you right now, have massive funding. We've already went over it on SNH where they have over $300,000 in just grant money. That's not even going over anything else that they might have possibly gotten from Annapurna Interactive. So a lot of people have a problem with the way it's being represented as an indie game because they don't view it as an indie game. Now, I also see the other side of the coin where people have this idea of what it means to be an indie game, and if you ask different people, you're going to get different answers. Everybody has this thing of, like, what qualifies, what doesn't qualify. It's kind of all over the place, but I don't think having a damn near $1 billion Nepo baby behind a studio like Annapurna Interactive, basically helping fund your video game and pushing your video game and paying for all this press and all that, I don't really think that's available to most indie games. You know what I'm saying? So, again, in any case, I think it's pretty funny. I think it's pretty hilarious overall, and I can't wait to see what other situations come out from this, and hopefully people do buy the game, Darkwind. Hopefully people do actually go out and buy the game, but we did see that certain people didn't buy the game, even though they said it was the best game they ever played, like Booty Adams. He admitted to playing only on Game Pass. So I don't know if playing on Game Pass means you buy the game, but last I checked, it didn't. If I'm wrong on that, I'm sure people in the chat can correct me, but apparently I don't think that's the case. So we'll see what ends up happening, but that's where we're at with good old Mixtape right now. Even Xbox is getting involved. I guarantee you it's only a matter of time before you start seeing some of the other major franchises. The other major companies get involved. I would guarantee you. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sony get involved. Can you imagine if the official Sony account makes a statement? It would be so hilarious. I kind of hope they do, to be honest with you. Just keep proving that it's fucking AstroTurf. Keep proving, God, for the love of God. It's going to be great.